Hey, Kai.
Hey,
Thanks for being on.
you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So you're in California, yeah?
I am.
Okay. So I'm gonna have the comments on, and maybe some people are gonna want to ask you questions. I don't know if you can see the comment strip.
No.
Good. I'll just I'll tell you when someone wants to ask a question. I'll tell you, or I'll put it up on the screen.
Okay.
Okay. So you know what? I had a few questions here, but I guess my first, actually, what I want to say is, myself and on behalf of a lot of war gamers I know, I'm sure they want me to say this. Our condolences for the passing of Chad.
Thank you.
I'm sorry for that. If I didn't broach the subject, it would have been weird. And I mean, anyways, we all were very, for lack of a better word, taken aback by that, because I personally didn't know Chad, but like I spoke to you before, we kind of knew him a little bit through his games. I guess a character does come out in a game, you know?
Yep.
So, Kai, what the hell made you accept my invitation to do this?
I don't know. I'll be honest. I no clue. This is not my normal, and it just sounded like something different, and I need to do different things because my life has changed.
Yeah, and yes, I'm different. I'll tell you that much. And all right, so I mean, I had a show this morning on with a guy called the Chief, Bart Brunsheen. He does a show called Bonding with Board Games, and also he does a show called Scotch Test Dummies, where he just tastes scotch and talks about it. I mean, that's a beautiful life. That's all. That's all he does. It's
fabulous.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Anyway, so Kai, I wrote things down here. So you developed some games with Chad and with other people too?
Yes.
Now, other than what does a developer do, what prompted you to be a developer? Like, what background do you need, or did you have to become a developer? What is a developer? What did you do as a developer?
Okay. Well, that's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
What developer is? It's the person who makes sure that the mechanics in a game work the way the designer intended in the real world. Because the designer has all these great ideas of what they intend the game to be like and what they want the experience to be like for the players. And they are so in that mindset that it takes another person to sit down and go through the actual mechanics and the rules as written, not as intended, but as written, and make sure that those intents actually carry through.
But Kai, what, like, and I'm being honest here, and no disrespect, but what do you know about the mechanics of the game? I don't know what your background is. So what do you know to correct a mechanic of someone? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. So how did I learn to do what I do?
Yeah.
You know, what makes me qualified?
Yeah. Well, how did you start, first of all?
Because Chad was always designing games. So they were always in the house. There was always something he had going on. And so when we started dating, he used me as a sounding board because I was a gamer before we got together.
Okay.
He'd say, hey, I've got this idea and this is what I'm thinking. And this is how I want to present that in the game. And so he would bounce the idea off of me and I would just instantly start trying to poke holes in it. You know, where's the flaw? Where does it break down? Where does it not mesh with the other systems already in place? And so it's a little mental exercise that we would go through to see, does this really fit? Does this lead to something better? Even though this may not be the answer, we can get to the answer from here. And so it was a lot of thought experiments. And I just developed a knack for working with him in the style that he does to design the games in the first place. And he does a lot of his own, did a lot of his own development work.
Okay, it's funny because you said you learned his style, or you learned how to adapt to his style, because the same thing with Herman Lutman and Fred Manzo, two other designer developers, which I call the Dream Team, and they work off each other. One time Fred is going to design, Herman's going to develop, and vice versa. Now, when you started, you said you were a board gamer. What kind of board games did you play for you to develop this mental ability to break down someone's game, I guess?
I don't know. We started with, I don't know, Monopoly and SMES, which is a chess variant that was very basic child-oriented type thing. D&D, when it first came out, we had the pink box,
Yeah,
first edition out. So, we started reading through that and going, oh, we could do this better. I didn't like kobolds. Let's do this other thing. And we came up with our own stuff and designed our own dungeons. And so my sisters and I played just any board game we could get our hands on as kids. And my mom would buy some, or if she found out a neighbor kid had it, she wouldn't buy it. We'd have to go play it at their house. But so there was always some kind of a game and the mechanics that go with them that was part of what we just naturally played with. And so growing up, we would take components of one game and rules for another game and come up with something completely different and try to play that. Chad grew up doing the same thing, but a lot more seriously. He would take games and redesign them from scratch, just take the components and go with an idea, and then make his cousins and his brother play with him. And he started that when he was about 10 or 11, started coming up with games of his own, just with the components that he had at hand.
See, I don't have that logic. I just played the games. I never even thought about, I'll make it my own. I don't know. I guess I don't have that. That's not the way I work, And
both avid readers, that it just fired our imagination, but we always looked at stuff and went, oh, I like it, but I would do it differently, and here's how. And so it's that mindset of it's still malleable. It hasn't been chiseled in stone yet, so I can shape this to my own liking. And so that's the mentality that I take into the game development. And that's how Chad did his design work. His games were always, what do I want to play? What do I like? And what's the experience I want out of this? That's the game I'm going to design. And if other people like it, great. But if they don't, I'm still having fun playing it.
Now, the point of a developer, is it basically for you to try to break it?
Somewhat, yeah. Yeah, you're looking for the flaws, you're looking for the holes before it goes out in the wild and other people find it and tear it apart. So you want it to go out as robust as it can be and as true to the design intent as it can be. So to do that, you have to tear it apart and you have to make sure that it holds up. And so we have a core group of local gamers who we play test with, and a couple of them are what we call breakers. They will look for the loopholes. They have an odd way of approaching a game where they will look for every possible benefit that they can tweak to win, and not just to win a little, but to win by a huge margin. So they will really milk a system. So they're fabulous for finding those weak spots. And I run playtest sessions, and I specifically invite these guys over when we're to the point where we think we've got the game in place, and have them come in and try to break it and try to push it out of shape.
Now, were you involved in the development of the first Combat Commander?
Oh yeah.
You were?
Yeah. Yes.
So I guess you're a pro at Combat Commander.
I have not played that game in about 10 years, to be honest, because every time we wanted to sit down and play, we've always got something else on the design table. So it was always the next thing, and he was always pushing his craft to improve, and he would set himself goals. This game I want to do, this specific thing better. And so he was always pushing forward, which means at some point the games that you've designed earlier kind of start falling off the back end. And so I have not played CC in years, and it's something that's actually on the table for me right now.
Okay, you know what I just did? I had this whole thing, this 10 minutes worth of fantastic conversation on private.
Are you serious?
I'm going to start over again, Kai, if you don't mind.
Not a problem.
Because I was wondering, why don't I have people chatting? And it's on private, for God's sakes.
You're funny. Is that recorded, though?
It recorded, and we're going to do part 2. You okay?
Okay.
I'm going to send you again the link and the whole shebang, all right? Sorry, Kai.
That's okay. So I have to log off?
I don't know. Maybe. I have no idea. Give me a sec, please.
Sure. No worries.